Welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission for you today is to explore how the sheer mathematics of physical scale changes, like absolutely everything about biology and nutrition.
Yeah, it really does.
And we are pulling directly from the Chihuahua Health Academy notes today. Specifically, an exploration they did called Small Bites, Big Impact.
Right, and this specific source material, it provides such a brilliant lens. Because understanding Chihuahua nutrition isn't just, a niche topic for dog owners.
No, not at all.
It's actually a fascinating case study in how a tiny biological system operates under totally different margins of error than we are used to seeing in mammalian biology.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because usually when we think about building or maintaining any kind of system, the margin of error depends entirely on the scale of the project, right?
Oh, absolutely. Scale is everything.
Right, so imagine you are engineering a massive suspension bridge. If you end up with like an extra inch of steel on one of the support beams, the structure is so colossal that it just absorbs that tiny discrepancy.
Yeah, it doesn't even register.
It's exactly.
The system is large enough to compensate. The physics of large-scale engineering just allow for those wide tolerances.
But then, shift your perspective. You are a watchmaker now. You are assembling the delicate gears of a tiny, intricate mechanical watch.
Right.
Suddenly, an extra millimeter of metal isn't just a discrepancy, it is a catastrophe that stops the entire mechanism from turning.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right. And that shift in scale, from the suspension bridge to the mechanical watch, is the exact mindset shift we need when looking at these notes on toy breeds.
Because the default human assumption is to look at a tiny dog and just see a scaled-down version of a big dog.
Right, like you take a Labrador, you shrink it down in Photoshop by 90%, and boom, you have a Chihuahua.
Right.
Feed it 90% less and you're good.
Which the notes highlight as a fundamentally dangerous approach.
Yeah.
We are looking at a creature that demands a level of precision we simply aren't used to applying to our pets, or honestly, even ourselves.
Yeah, it all comes down to the fundamental math, right? The math governing their baseline metabolism.
Exactly. We're talking about a typical adult dog weighing between 3 and 6 pounds.
3 to 6 pounds.
Yeah.
That is like the weight of a bag of apples at the grocery store.
Yeah, or a heavy textbook.
It's crazy.
And when you have a body mass of a few apples, the absolute caloric requirements are minuscule. But the basal metabolic rate,
The energy required just to keep the heart beating and the lungs breathing.
right, exactly, that is running incredibly hot. So for a body of that size, even a microscopic amount of extra food represents a massive percentage of their daily caloric needs.
Wow.
If you are eyeballing their food or, just tossing a small handful into the bowl, you might be overfeeding them by 30 or 40% without even realizing it.
Man, it makes me think of personal finances. Like if you have a $5,000 monthly budget
Right.
and you buy a $5 coffee, the coffee's a rounding error. You don't even think about the impact on your bottom line.
No, of course not.
But if your entire monthly budget is $50, that single $5 coffee represents 10% of your total resources for the month. It's a massive, critical allocation of capital.
What's fascinating here is how this math completely redefines our margin of error in caregiving.
Yeah.
Measuring meals accurately, like using a precise measuring cup or even a kitchen scale, it is non-negotiable.
A kitchen scale for dog food. That really puts it in perspective.
It does. And the source material points this out, not to make feeding some, anxiety-inducing chore,
Right.
but to highlight that precision is the single most controllable factor in maximizing this breed's incredible lifespan. Chihuahuas are among the longest-lived dogs.
You can reach, what, 15 to 18 years sometimes.
Easily, yeah. And that longevity is directly tied to the physiological harmony that comes from precise nutrition.
So if you're running that tiny engine with the exact right fuel mixture, it's going to run for a very long time.
Exactly.
But because the math is so strict, the timing and the type of fuel have to change drastically as the dog ages. The notes break this down into distinct life stages, starting with what they essentially frame as the danger zone of puppyhood.
Yes, the puppy stage for a Chihuahua is highly precarious. They require 3 to 4 meals a day.
3 to 4 meals. That sounds like a lot of distinct feeding times. It's almost like tending to a newborn human.
It really is. And it is biologically necessary because of their rapid growth, combined with a severe lack of energy reserves.
Right.
A Chihuahua puppy has virtually no stored fat or glycogen in their liver to draw from if they miss a meal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the liver is proportionally tiny, and the brain, which runs almost exclusively on glucose, is demanding a huge amount of energy to develop.
So they're burning through it constantly.
Constantly. And that leads to a very specific, critical danger: hypoglycemia.
A sudden, severe drop in blood sugar.
Exactly.
And the source mentions that if they get hypoglycemic, you'll see lethargy, weakness, trembling, and disorientation.
Very scary to witness.
I bet. And they suggest an emergency protocol that actually really surprised me. They mention rubbing corn syrup on the gums of a hypoglycemic puppy.
Yes.
I have to ask, wait, corn syrup? Isn't giving a dog straight, highly processed sugar completely counterintuitive to healthy nutrition?
Well, it is vital to clarify the difference between a dietary staple and an emergency medical intervention.
Okay, fair.
Think of a human with severe type 1 diabetes who is crashing and needs a glucose tablet immediately to prevent a coma.
Oh, right. You're not worrying about their long-term diet in that second.
Exactly. The physiology of that tiny puppy body means that when blood sugar plummets, the brain and muscles are instantly starved. They do not have the metabolic reserves to synthesize more sugar on the fly.
So they are completely out of gas, just coasting on fumes, and the engine is actively shutting down.
That's exactly what's happening. And the brilliance of the corn syrup protocol is in the delivery mechanism.
How so?
When you rub it on their gums, the sugar doesn't even need to be swallowed and processed through the gastrointestinal tract.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it is absorbed instantaneously through the mucosal membranes in the mouth. It goes straight into the bloodstream, crossing the blood-brain barrier almost immediately to fuel the brain and stabilize the nervous system while you contact a vet.
That is incredibly intense. It
Yeah.
really paints a picture of how delicate that system is early on.
It's very delicate.
You were talking about literal minutes between a missed meal and a neurological crisis.
Yes, especially for the puppies.
And then they hit adulthood around 9 to 12 months, which is pretty early compared to bigger breeds, like, say, a golden retriever that might take 2 years to fully mature.
Right, smaller breeds mature faster skeletally and neurologically. So at that 9 to 12-month mark, the nutritional needs shift entirely to pure maintenance.
Okay.
The calories are no longer funding rapid skeletal growth or brain development. They're just keeping the lights on.
Makes sense.
Then, as they transition into their senior years, which is a huge chunk of their life, the focus shifts again to lean muscle maintenance and careful downward caloric adjustments as their daily activity naturally drops.
Speaking of those physical signs, like the trembling you mentioned during a hypoglycemic crash, the notes transition into something I think every single person who has ever met a Chihuahua has noticed. The shakes.
Oh,
They vibrate.
Yeah.
And the natural human assumption is, oh my gosh, the poor thing is freezing or starving to death.
Right. We see an animal vibrating and we immediately project distress or extreme hunger onto them.
Yeah.
Especially if they are shaking right before mealtime. Owners constantly misinterpret this physical response as the dog being ravenously, desperately hungry.
But the source notes point out that shaking can actually be from excitement, cold, or that hypoglycemia we just covered.
Correct.
I look at their persistent interest in food, sort of like a human scrolling through a food delivery app right after they've finished a massive dinner.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, just because the enthusiasm to look at pictures of pizza is there, doesn't mean the body actually needs the calories. The desire does not equal a deficit.
This raises an important question about how we interpret animal behavior, you know? We are so quick to equate an emotional response, like excitement, over a high-value resource like food with a biological need.
Yeah, we anthropomorphize them.
Exactly. A Chihuahua's nervous system is highly reactive. Anticipation of a meal causes an adrenaline spike, which manifests as a physical tremor.
So they literally shake with excitement.
Yes. The source establishes a very firm rule here. Appetite is not a reliable guide for feeding.
Which is hard for a loving owner. I mean, your dog is practically doing a tap dance for a piece of kibble, vibrating with excitement, and you feel like a monster saying no.
It is hard.
Yeah.
But an excited shake tends to resolve quickly once the food or the attention arrives.
Okay.
If the shaking is from poor thermoregulation, meaning they are actually cold because of their high surface area to volume ratio,
Right.
or from low blood sugar, it persists and is often accompanied by lethargy. The core takeaway from the notes is that you cannot trust the dog's enthusiasm.
So what do you trust?
Body condition. It is the only honest metric of whether they are getting enough to eat.
And if owners ignore that, if they trust the dog's dramatic Academy Award-winning performance of hunger instead of precise measurements, It leads directly to the most consequential misconception in the notes.
The obesity myth.
Yes, the obesity myth.
The myth that small dogs don't become obese is a pervasive and frankly dangerous idea. They absolutely do become obese, and the physical consequences for this breed are proportionally devastating.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The numbers in the notes are wild. Adding just half a pound to a pound on a 5-pound dog is a catastrophic percentage increase.
Let's do the math on that. If a 5-pound dog gains 1 pound, that is a 20% increase in total body mass.
20%.
To put that in human terms, that is a 150-pound person suddenly waking up carrying an extra 30 pounds.
Yeah, just overnight.
But for the dog, that excess weight is being carried on joints that are roughly the size of a pencil eraser.
Oh, that sounds so painful.
It is. The biomechanical strain on those tiny cartilage surfaces and ligaments is immense.
But, it's a psychology trick playing out in real time on the owner's part.
How do you mean?
Because the dog is so small to begin with, our human eyes completely fail to recognize a 20% body weight increase. A 1-pound gain just looks like a little extra fluff around the collar.
Yes, it's so true.
We literally can't see the danger because our brains don't process a 1-pound visual gain as a threat.
And that's why visual assessment alone is practically useless for this breed. This is why the veterinary community uses a 1 to 9 body condition score, or BCS scale.
Okay, the BCS scale.
The source material emphasizes that owners must perform quick, monthly, hands-on physical assessments rather than just looking at the dog.
I've always wondered about those scales. I know a 4 or 5 out of 9 is considered ideal, but how do you actually translate a chart at the vet's office into a practical at-home check?
Well, you have to use your hands. You place your thumbs on the dog's spine and spread your fingers down over their rib cage. You should be able to easily feel individual ribs under a slight layer of fat without having to press hard.
Like, how does that feel exactly?
It should feel somewhat like feeling the bones on the back of your hand.
Oh, okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Right. And when you look down at them from above, there should be a visible, tucked-in waist behind the ribs.
And if they're overweight?
If you can't feel the ribs without pushing through a layer of padding, so like feeling the knuckles on the palm side of your hand.
Oh, yeah, that's much squishier.
Exactly. If it feels like that, they are carrying excess weight.
Got it.
And that extra adipose tissue isn't just heavy. It creates systemic inflammation, acting as a multiplier for joint issues and significantly shortening their lifespan.
Man, it's that watchmaker precision again. We can't trust our eyes. We have to physically touch the gears to know if they're running right.
Perfect way to frame it.
And a lot of times, that extra weight we can't see doesn't even come from the dog's primary diet. It comes from the extras. The treats, the table scraps.
Ah, yes. The great undoing of many well-intentioned canine diets. There is a pervasive myth that one extra treat doesn't matter.
Which, bringing back our $50 budget analogy from earlier, is totally false here.
Completely false.
A single generic dog biscuit could be 20% of their daily caloric limit.
Which means treats have to be factored into a literal calorie spreadsheet. You are breaking a single treat into microscopic pieces to dole out over the course of a day.
Just tiny crumbs.
Yes. But beyond just the caloric overload, the source dives deeply into the dangers of table scraps and toxic human foods.
Right.
We're talking about chocolate, grapes, raisins, onions, garlic, and xylitol.
Let's focus on xylitol for a second.
Okay.
It's an artificial sweetener in a lot of peanut butters and sugar-free gums. I know it's bad, but the notes highlight a terrifying reality about the scale of toxicity for a Chihuahua. Why is it so much worse than just like a stomach ache?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, xylitol is a perfect example of a mechanical failure at scale. In humans, xylitol doesn't stimulate the release of insulin from the pancreas.
Right, that's why it's a diet thing for us.
Exactly. But in dogs, it gets absorbed into the bloodstream rapidly and tricks the pancreas into releasing a massive, potent spike of insulin.
Oh, no.
Yeah. This insulin sweeps all the existing blood sugar into the cells, causing profound, life-threatening hypoglycemia within 10 to 60 minutes.
So it artificially triggers the exact crisis we were trying to prevent with the corn syrup in puppies.
Yes. And toxicity is almost always calculated by the milligram of toxin per kilogram of body weight.
Right. The math again?
Always the math. If a healthy 70-pound Labrador Retriever eats a stick of sugar-free gum dropped on the floor, its large body mass and blood volume dilutes the toxin.
It can absorb it.
Right. It might cause a mild drop in blood sugar, easily managed. But if a 4-pound Chihuahua eats that exact same piece of gum, the dose-to-weight ratio is catastrophic.
The same goes for grapes and raisins then.
Absolutely. The toxic compound in grapes directly attacks the renal tubules in the kidneys. A single raisin delivering that toxin to kidneys the size of kidney beans causes acute renal failure. A toxic dose for a Chihuahua is microscopic compared to a larger dog.
Wow.
The margin for error isn't just small for calories, it is non-existent for toxins.
That is terrifying, but so important to understand.
Yeah.
You literally can't leave your groceries on the floor for even a second.
You really can't.
The notes also pivot to their primary safe diet, emphasizing complete and balanced small kibble. And they cautioned against grain-free and raw diets without serious vet consultation because of safety risks and lack of precise formulation.
Yes.
But I read the note about small kibble, and my first thought was just, oh, it's a choking hazard, like this tiny throat, tiny kibble. But I have a feeling at this scale, it's also about the mechanics of digestion.
It is highly functional biomechanics. A Chihuahua's mouth is very small, often slightly pushed in, which means their teeth are frequently crowded together.
Right.
This crowding creates tight traps for plaque, making them highly prone to severe periodontal disease.
So large kibble pieces aren't just a choking risk, they actually damage the dental ecosystem.
Exactly. If the kibble is too large, the dog can't chew it properly. They might try to shatter it and swallow sharp shards or, just swallow pieces whole.
Which skips the chewing entirely.
Yes, and that skips the first crucial step of digestion, mastication. Small, appropriately sized kibble encourages proper chewing mechanics.
Okay.
This provides a slight mechanical scraping action on the teeth to help manage plaque and ensures the food is ground down enough to maximize the surface area.
Right, because the more surface area.
The easier it is to digest. That increased surface area is vital for the relatively short digestive tract to extract the necessary nutrients efficiently.
It all comes back to the engineering of that tiny system.
Every time.
Every single input has to be calibrated for maximum efficiency.
Yeah.
And, that mechanical precision required for their teeth and digestion actually points to an even more immediate vulnerability. Exactly. Solid fuel is one thing, but their physical structure creates a constant silent threat regarding liquid. The notes highlight one nutrient that is constantly overlooked, and its intake is severely impacted by both their size and their personality. Water.
Hydration is frequently the forgotten nutrient. A tiny body dehydrates significantly faster than a large one, especially in warm weather or after a burst of activity. This is due to insensible water loss.
Insensible water loss. Like
Yeah.
water they are losing without actively realizing it.
Precisely. Dogs don't sweat like humans. They regulate their body temperature primarily through panting, evaporating moisture from their respiratory tract.
Right.
Because a Chihuahua has a very high surface area to volume ratio, they lose moisture to the environment rapidly. Maintaining that fluid balance requires constant, small intakes of water.
And the behavioral component here is fascinating and honestly a little tragic if you don't plan for it.
It really is.
Because Chihuahuas are incredibly devoted, loyal companions. They are famous for following their owners from room to room like a little shadow.
They are deeply attached. The pack instinct is intensely concentrated in toy breeds. Where you go, they go.
So think about it like working in a massive office building.
Okay.
If you work on the 4th floor, and your only water source is a water cooler that is a 5-minute walk away, down 3 hallways and an elevator ride.
You're not going.
Exactly. You're probably going to end up dehydrated. You just won't make the trip unless you are dying of thirst and absolutely have to.
Right.
But if you have a water bottle sitting right next to your keyboard on your desk, you sip constantly all day without even thinking about it. Convenience drives consumption.
That analogy perfectly illustrates the intersection of psychology and physiology. The dog needs water wherever the human is.
Yeah.
Because if the human is in the living room watching a movie for 3 hours, the Chihuahua is going to stay tucked against that human's leg.
Right, they're Velcro dogs.
Exactly. Their evolutionary trait of pack loyalty completely overrides their biological thirst drive. They will actively choose proximity to you over making the long trek back to the distant kitchen to get a drink from their single water bowl.
They will literally sit there and slowly dehydrate, just to maintain physical contact with you.
Their intense attachment becomes a physical vulnerability if the environment isn't adapted for them. So the spatial placement of multiple water bowls around the house.
Like in the bedroom near the couch.
In the office, exactly. It isn't just spoiling the dog. It is a vital, necessary health strategy designed to hack their psychology and protect their physiology.
So what does this all mean? When we step back and look at everything we've unpacked today for you from the Chihuahua Health Academy notes, the through line is absolute uncompromising precision.
Without a doubt.
The math of a tiny body means we simply cannot rely on our human instincts, our visual estimations, or even the dog's own enthusiasm.
We have to actively outsmart our own human biases. We cannot treat them like a shrunken Labrador.
Longevity for this breed is achieved through exact portion control using a scale. It's achieved through understanding the 1 to 9 body condition score and doing those monthly hands-on rib checks, because our eyes will absolutely lie to us about a 20% weight gain.
They will.
And it requires hypervigilance about the mechanics of toxicity, like understanding why a single grape destroys tiny kidneys, and even something as simple as adapting our floor plan so they don't have to choose between hydration and loyalty.
It's really about respecting the physical reality of their scale rather than projecting the vast margins of our own world onto them.
Absolutely. The source material actually turns next to exercise and weight, like how to safely move that tiny, perfectly fueled body to build confidence and joint strength without causing injury.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be just as full of surprising biomechanical adjustments.
It provides incredible insight into canine fitness, but, we've spent this entire deep dive analyzing how a giant world impacts a tiny creature's daily intake. We've talked about how environmental layout, scale, and convenience dictate their hydration, their calorie intake, and ultimately their health.
Yeah.
But it really makes you wonder about ourselves.
Oh, how so?
Think about the water cooler analogy or the concept of portion distortion. How much of our own human nutrition and daily consumption is secretly being dictated not by our actual biological hunger, but by the physical scale, the convenience, and the layout of the giant environments we've built around ourselves?
Oh, wow.
Are we eating what our biology requires or just what our architecture encourages?
Man, that's going to sit with me for a while. Are we just grazing because the fridge is right there, or running dry because the kitchen feels too far away?
Exactly.
It all comes back to the environment. And whether you are building a giant suspension bridge or tending to the tiny, delicate gears of a mechanical watch, the margins of error are always dictated by the world you are operating in.
Well said.
Thank you for taking this deep dive with us. We'll catch you on the next one.